Hey guys, this is James, and I wanted to do a let's start of a game I've owned for quite some time and haven't played yet. It's Mecha Ace Heroes of the Vedrian War. I believe on Steam it's just called Mecha Ace. It's written by Paul Wang, as you can see on the screen. And if you are someone who thought Academagia was not a game because it didn't have enough moving parts, well, 3D moving parts, you're going to think this is less of a game because it's all text. There's no real graphics or anything like Academagia has portraits and stuff. This only has text and a little bit of color here in the stats page, but we don't have to worry about this. This game is made by a company called Choice of Games. They're all text-based type games. I've played Choice of Robots, and I think it's called Diabolical, where you play a supervillain. And I kind of really like these games, even though there's not any graphics or anything. It's like one of those old choose your own adventure type books, and I love it for that. And I like playing them. I bought this a while ago, and I haven't had a chance to sit down. Well, I've had chances, but I didn't. So I figured, why not start now, and maybe I'll play after doing this recording as well. And maybe I'll talk about it during my vlog. I don't know. But yeah. Now for Mecha Ace, we're gonna be a character who pretty much does Gundam things. That's the only thing I know about it. It sounds interesting. And looking at this first screen, it does something that the other two I've played haven't done. It randomizes the NPCs' genders. So that's kind of interesting. We're going to stick with that option. These games can be range from like $5 to $7. There's a couple of them that are $10. And actually, when I went to go check the prices for these games, I ended up adding two to my wish list because I they looked interesting, and the next time there's a Steam sale, I'll probably pick them up. I normally pick up these games through Steam sales because they drop to like $1, $2. And just as a warning, because this is all text based, this is me just reading to you. If that's not interesting to you, this might not be the video for you. But I don't know, maybe listen for a little while, and if you like it, maybe go check out some of these Choice of Games text adventures. Episode 1: A Struggle Amidst the Stars, the Battle for Viridia Prime. Orbit over Viridia Prime, Viridia System, 419 Interstellar Error. You pull back on the throttle as the battered Imperial combat amateur in your sights begins to glow with the telltale light of a core breach. You shift your weight in your seat, your skin-tight pilot suit stretching as your own mecha's controls register your movement. Your multi-ton war machine halts just meters in front of the stricken enemy machine at the commands of your flesh and blood body inside the cockpit. With a twist of your legs, your control interface sends the 12 metric ton of your combat amateur's leg crashing into the disintegrating enemy machine, sending it careening off into the middle of the enemy formation. With a brilliant, self-annihilating flash, the crippled machine's matter-antimatter core goes critical, taking two other hostiles with it. Around you, more enemy machines die as allied mecha pour support fire into them, exploding the hole torn in the enemy formation by your attack. Command had been wise to choose you to lead the attack, for you were an elite ace with 60 kills. Now you have 63. Their formation shattered, the enemy advance guard flees for the safety of their distant support vessels. Behind you, the main body of the fleet moves up to press the attack, allowing you and your fellow pilots in the advance guard to regroup. You scan your tactical display, hoping to find and rendezvous with your units. Instead, you find three dim energy readings heading away from you, each with the telltale signatures of escape pods. What do you do? So here I have a few options. Killing helpless foes would be dishonorable. I let them go. I am a soldier, not a murderer. I don't want to kill anyone. I don't have to. Killing them would waste ammunition. I could need later. I'll let them go. I can't afford to let 3 experienced enemy pilots live. Or why should I let those impy bastards live. I kill them all. So these options will reflect in my stats. So warrior, diplomat, deliberation, and passion. So it would be dishonorable. I'm gonna say it's dishonorable. I don't like the soldier idea and the whole it's a waste of ammunition. That's just a bit too cold. And then these are just I don't know. I think there's like in real life you're not supposed to kill hapless people on the battlefield. Like someone parachuting in can't defend themselves, so you don't kill them. Something to that effect. Might be wrong. So we're just gonna say it's dishonorable. You lower your machine's weapon as you watch the 3 Imperial pilots escape to the safety of their fleet's defensive fire. The past 5 years of war between Earth and her colonies have been a traumatizing experience for humanity's collective psyche. You have seen those men and women whose good hearts had been broken by the slaughter, those who could wreak death and destruction without a second thought simply because they no longer saw it as something monstrous. The escape pods of your vanquished opponents disappear off the edge of your sensor display. You breathe a sigh. You are glad that you are not one of them. A voice brings you out of your pensive mood and into the here and now. Are you just going to let them get away like that, boss? The window on your comm screen displays the image of a black-haired, hungry-looking young man with aristocratic features and skin the color of milk tea, his brow furrowed and in frustration. Ensign fucking A. This is another thing. I am terrible with certain words and mostly names. So I'm going to be fumbling a lot with certain words. It's going to happen. I've already fumbled like 5 times. I've probably edited them out though. This one, not so much. Feridone Asadi, sure, your wingman, possessed of undoubted talent and the instincts of a natural hunter, but vicious. Far too vicious for his own good. You look your wingman in the eye. They fought bravely, Asadi, and they fought well. They've earned the right to fight another day. Asadi gives a sigh of resignation, as if he were your commanding officer instead of the other way around. I'll have to take your word for it. Oh, I guess here is when we choose our gender. So we'll say sir. Because why not? Because if we're choosing a name, I know which name I'm choosing. Actually, we could be female. Fuck it, let's roll a die. This is why I keep dice near me. Okay, we'll say if I roll an odd, I'll be male. If I roll even, I'll be female. I rolled a 1, which is odd. Okay. I think I did this with the Cat of Magia as well. You nod your head. Glad I've made myself clear, Asadi, you say as you look over your main display. Beyond your wingman's face and at the battle still raging before you, high above Viridia Prime's surface. Half a decade of war has honored your ability to pick out friend from foe to a razor edge. Within seconds, you are able to pick out the friendly warships and combat amateur units of the fleet as they open up against the main body of the hated enemy. I think that's armature. I've been saying amateur. They, like you, fight for the coalition of democratic extrasolar colonies, an alliance of human colonies fighting for independence from the growing tyranny of Old Earth's empire of humanity ascendant. That's a lot of words. The rebellion itself had been centuries in the making. While the human species has been strong central authority to govern it during the first uncertain decades of interstar colonization, the organization that would become the Empire did not adapt to changing realities as Earth's colonies grew into power in their own right. Ultimately, the result had been a government who claimed to speak for all of humanity, but one of which concentrated all power in the 1/7 of the human race that lived within humanity's home system, instead of delegating power to the ascended colonies. Old Earth had sought to rein in its growing children with increasingly restrictive policies. When the outer colonies protested, the Empress had her court respond by stripping entire worlds of their charters and ruling by decree. After that, open rebellion had only been a matter of time. Okay, so just to make sure I got this, we are part of the colonies. We are fighting against the Earth Empire to form our own freedom. Cool. We're the Browncoats. In the early days of the rebellion, the forces of Earth's rebelling colonies had been poorly organized and armed with nothing more than improvised weapons, warships, and combat armatures. You had been one of the first volunteers. The moment the concept of colony revolution became something more concrete, you joined up with the newborn rebellion, ragtag armed forces. You had one thing on your mind that day. You joined Codex Military as a combat armature pilot for one reason. Revenge for my family, to support the cause of freedom of the tyranny, to shield those dear to me, a chance for power, fame, maybe even high office, to kill people with official backing. My homeworld had joined the rebellion. It's my duty to defend her. These are all very interesting. I think this one clashes with the earlier option I made. It's probably one of these two. I don't think it's revenge. It's either to support the cause of freedom from the tyranny of old Earth, or to shield those dear to me from the destruction of war. I'm gonna say we are a fighter of freedom. And let's just check if our stats have been changing here. Not so far. Oh wow, there's a lot of stuff here. Cool. Check that out later. Some of your fellow Codex soldiers actually have very little idea what they are fighting for. They quote mass media sound bites and jingoistic slogans. You know better. Your intellectual opposition to the Empire had begun long before the Civil War. You could rattle off the injustice of the imperial system one by one, the extra-legal rights of the imperial nobility, and the imitation of noble titles to those born in the planets of Sol. The Empress' ability to rule the outer colonies by decree, the fact that the Imperial fleet has never deployed to quell the growing piracy of the outer colonies, despite the fact that those colonies contribute over a third of the Empire's tax revenue, and so on. When Codex formed an open rebellion, you knew that the people of the outer colonies finally had a chance to get a government which did more than plunder the riches of the outer worlds and send them earthward. You volunteered as soon as you could. Over the next 5 long years of war, you watched Codex Military turn into a cohesive fighting force capable of facing the Imperial war machine on even terms. During that time, you became one of Codex's most elite pilots, most famously known for single-handedly destroying 3 Imperial warships at the Battle of Crown Station, protecting a civilian convoy from repeated enemy attacks during the retreat from Toulon. No single act but my passionate devotion to everything I do. No single act but my utter reliability and unbroken history of excellent service. That last one's an interesting one. I'm going to go with protecting a civilian convoy from repeated enemy attacks. That sounds like a nice one. It had happened the first few chaotic months of the war before Codex has really gotten its act together. The Imperials pushed hard into colony space and managed to throw the ramshackle rebellion garrison from Toulon. In the uncoordinated madness of that retreat, you have found yourself protecting a dozen civilian transports alone against 3 full lances of Imperial combat armatures. Somehow you had managed to hold off the enemy and get the convoy away without a single evacuation transport lost. You scored your 5th kill and made ace that day. High Command gave you a decoration for valor after that, the first of many. But the greatest reward of all was the knowledge that your actions have saved over 50,000 lives. With the other 5 combat armatures of your lance railing behind your machine, you look for a target of opportunity, an opportunity to throw your unit back into the fight. Your keen eyes soon find one. The telltale. They really like using the telltale in this writing. The telltale thruster trails of Imperial M401 Phantons, the most basic combat armature still fielded by the Imperial military. There are perhaps 24 in all, moving forward in an attempt to outflank the advancing Codex fleet. There are perhaps 24 in all, moving forward in an attempt to outflank the advancing Codex fleet. You turn to your wingman again. He meets your gaze, a vicious grin on his lips. It is clear that he has seen the same opportunity you have. More work, boss man? You nod. More work. Pilots rally on me and prepare to attack. You look around your cockpit going through the practice motions of a pre-combat check. You know Asadi and the other members of your lance will be doing the same. For them, such a check would be a formality, but you've just come out of a battle and you go through every item on the checklist in earnest, looking for minor damage from your previous skirmish, mechanical failure alerts, or any other pressing issues. Finally, you ensure that your machine's primary weapon is in working order. You quickly check the heatsink status of my long-range particle rifle, my power linkage of my sword-like plasma cutter, or ammunition levels on my versatile autocannon. Well, plasma swords are cool. I mean, if you get a chance to get a plasma sword versus some kind of rifle or an autocannon, you go for the sword. You skim through the weapon power display, making sure that each of the 4 linkages on the screen show green. With a press of a button, the familiar hilt of your plasma cutter slots into the right hand of your CA-82 Uxbridge. I was really hoping we would get the name or mech, but whatever. Is the work of half a second and a burst of your veneer thrusters to assume a classic fencer's pose. You touch the activator, and a bright blade of blued flames blazes forth from the emitter, long enough and intense enough to bisect an enemy combat armature in a single stroke. It is this formidable weapon, along with the Uxbridge's incredible speed and your own piloting skills, which have made you one of Codex's premier aces over the years, a reputation which grows with every battle. Of course, it helps that your machine isn't exactly factory standard. Over the years, you've made a few modifications to your increasingly obsolete mecha. At first, they were just a few minor touches: new cockpit displays, a climate control unit, leather upholstery, stuff like that. It wasn't until you scored your 25th kill in the 3rd year of the war that command had given you permission to order the customizations you had really wanted, namely upgraded thrusters, which make my mecha more agile, improved sensors, which help me keep an eye on the battlefield, cockpit armor, which makes me feel safer and more confident in battle, a custom paint job to encourage my allies and strike fear in the enemies. Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Command asked me what I want. I'm like, sick flames, bro. Right on my mech. Okay. I actually am quite tempted by this one. But I think legitimately I would want cockpit armor, because that makes sense. That could save my life. If you look closely enough, you can even see the hexagonal outlines of the synth carbon armor panels behind the rectangular shapes of your cockpit displays. Although of limited use against combat armature scale weaponry, the extra layer of protection has always been calming influence. Knowing that you have done everything you can do to make your job as safe as possible has done wonders for your peace of mind.